So we are going to be talking about 7 different ways to improve athletic performance. So again, if you're joining tonight, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'm super excited to teach you something, and hopefully you learn a little bit of something today. So my name's Lexi, and I am a sports dietitian. This is Kyla and Amanda. They are also a couple of our other practitioners that work with Nutritional Revolution. Then we also have Amanda A as well, and all 3 of them are on this call. And yeah, our goal is to really just help teach others about nutrition and really get athletes to that next level of training. So we have a couple of different services that we offer. We have a premium package and then a one-on-one coaching package. So if you choose the premium package, you will get some tailored macros and access to coaching portals. But with that one-on-one coaching package, you'll get a 60-minute initial consult, 2 30-minute consults every month, and then 24/7 messaging access to me, as well as we go through a lot of different testings. We do sweat testing, gut training, and then we really hone in on that day of competition or meet, whatever it may be. So it's a little bit more one-on-one, a lot more customized towards the athlete. So I just wanted to reiterate that, when we put the hard work in and we learn how to properly recover, we're really gonna reach that next level of whatever it may be, whether you're trying to, hit a PR or maybe you're trying to make it to a championship, whatever it may be, that recovery aspect is really going to get you there. So these are the topics that we're going to be covering in today's webinar. Just wanted to give a little overview so you have an idea of what we're going to be discussing, and just finding different ways to help you recover quicker. So I want you to ask yourself this question. What is your why? Why are you here? What motivates you? And what areas do you feel like you could improve in as an athlete? Or maybe you're just someone who really wants to hit a PR in the gym, or you just want to have like a long-lasting sports career, or maybe you just want to have a long-lasting vital life and you want to be able to play with your grandchildren when you're older. Those are all goals, and those are all reasons that we try to stay healthy and make these changes to have a better life. So proper nutrition is a crucial part of athlete success, but just, your general person needs some good nutrition as well. So what is recovery? Recovery is returning to a normal state of health, mind, or strength, and achieving optimal performance can really happen best when we learn how to incorporate recovery strategies in our day-to-day life that really help us balance that training stress and just the other stressors that happen in life. So a lot of times when we end up overtraining, we kind of work backwards because we're not getting that recovery. Our body isn't able to bounce back as fast. So step 1 in recovery, the biggest thing is really trying to reduce that likelihood of injury. So how are we going to do that? So over 60% of all injuries that are suffered by athletes are musculoskeletal. So when we see overuse, usually this manifests itself in a stress fracture or tendonitis of some sort. When we are over stiff, usually it's when the tendon or muscle, or the tendon's stiff, but the muscle's strong, and this usually shows itself in a muscle pull. When we have imbalance, that's usually different strength across the muscle that usually shows itself in the ruptured ACL, something like that. And then the trauma usually happens when we have a traumatic injury to the bone, tendon, or joint. So how do we minimize injury risk? Great question. You want to make sure you're getting enough nutrition. So making sure we're eating enough before training or competition will really help reduce our risk of injury, because our body has enough calories to really put out the energy that we want to get in that training session. And we'll kind of talk a little bit more about this throughout this presentation, but nutrition is a huge way to reduce that risk. Now, also, taking collagen about an hour before your competition or training can really help with keeping those tendons flexible and strong. So this is going to help also reduce joint pain. There was a study done on Division I athletes, and they said that the collagen really helped reduce some of their joint pain. So collagen, great supplement. I love to recommend that. Talking about stretching, if we take about 5 minutes before our workout to stretch, incorporate some of those isometric movements can really help get our tendons moving, our muscles loosen, things like that. And then making sure we're resting. So if we have really long training sessions, it actually might be more beneficial to split those into 2 shorter training sessions, because we really can have fatigue related injury if we end up going through a really long training session. We're not getting enough electrolytes, we're not getting enough calories. That really increases our injury risk. So maybe splitting our sessions into shorter sessions, having some rest periods between those sessions, getting a good meal in, and then obviously sleep is so important. We'll touch on that at the end of this webinar. But 7 to 9 hours is the range that we like to shoot for athletes especially. And then again, the importance of recovery. Long-term imbalances of training stress can really cause injury, overtraining, and decreased performance. And it also can suppress our immune system. So recovery goes beyond just the sport. It goes into, the whole body, everything that functions, how we function day to day. It's all part of that. So step 2, eat enough carbohydrates and time your meals. So carbohydrates are the main source of energy from food for the human body. They help maintain our energy balances. Carbohydrates are used for organ function. It's used for muscle function, brain function. And every athlete has really different carbohydrate needs because every sport's super different. We'll touch on that again a little bit later, but carbohydrates are that quick source of energy. So as you can see, when we don't have enough carbohydrates, it can affect our performance, really increase that injury risk. It will, cause us to have low stamina. We might have poor cognitive function. So, decision-making when you really need to make a fast decision in that moment, during a play, this can really be detrimental to, an athlete in their sport. And then again, just listing the positives of getting enough carbohydrates. We're going to maximize our energy potential. We're going to have better performance. We're going to feel better. We're going to have more focus, and it also just takes us longer to fatigue because we have the proper energy. And then over here on the right, I just gave some simple carb examples. This is what I would really recommend kind of either right before a training session or kind of in between a training session. If your session goes longer than an hour, this is something that I would definitely recommend to reach for and grab. But yes, carbohydrates are crucial. So athletes should be choosing carbohydrate-rich foods before a competition with minimal fiber. So if we have too much fiber, fat, or protein, it can slow that digestion of carbohydrates down. And as an athlete, we want to utilize that carb because it's a quick energy source. So when we add in fiber, fat, and protein, it does cause the digestion of the carbs to slow down, which when we're an athlete and we really want that quick energy, we don't want the digestion of the carbs to be slow. We want it to be fast. So really choosing higher carbohydrate, lower protein. And then I will give you a range. So usually we like to aim between 5 to 7 grams per kilogram per day of carbohydrates. So I like to break that up into different meals. But again, if you were to work with me, we would kind of be going into all of those, breaking down carbs for every hour and proper foods to help you kind of meet those carbs. So not all sports were created equal. So there are a wide variety of carbohydrate recommendations based off of your sport, based off of your body weight and your height. And also, as you can see, like a baseball player would fall into a lower carbohydrate level because they are going to be doing short distance of speed, running from base to base, whereas maybe your endurance runner they're going to be running a lot longer for longer periods of time. So they're going to need a lot more carbohydrates. So you can kind of look at this list and see that, every sport is going to have different needs, but they all still need that carbohydrate, but the carbohydrate is, functioning a little bit different for each athlete. So I wanted to go down this list to kind of show you what you should be aiming for based on the timing. So let's say you have a competition about 3 hours and prior to the 3 hours. So I want you to have a full meal. This is going to be full plate. Half of that plate is going to be high in carbohydrates, something like pasta, rice, easy digestible carbs. I want to be half of that plate. And then we want about palm size amount of protein. And that's going to be, again, greater than 3 hours or 3 hours before your competition. That's fine with the protein. Now, once we start approaching that less than 3 hour mark, that's when we really want to kind of start focusing more on our carbohydrates. So 60 minutes, I want you to aim for 30 to 60 grams of carbs, again, low on that fat and fiber, and really loading up on that water 60 minutes before so you have time to go to the bathroom and really be hydrated for your game. And then again, 15 to 30 minutes before practice or game, continue to hydrate. And then during the competition, using those carbohydrates that I listed a couple slides earlier, or reaching for that Gatorade are going to be really great options for simple carbohydrates and fuel. So we utilize a program called That Clean Life. And as you can see, I created a sample day of eating. And this is what it would look like if you were to work with me. We would be creating weeks of eating at a time. And then we have different ways where you can see what the groceries are going to be like for that day. So it's a really great program. It's very beneficial and helps you kind of with planning. And we love utilizing this. And I think it's a really great tool just to be able to see what you're going to be making for that week, how to plan, and, really, utilizing some of these whole foods to get some good nutrition in. And there's so many recipes that I will show you. So these are 2 recipes that really caught my eye. But this is what it would look like if you were to get a meal plan. You would have a whole PDF, and all of these recipes throughout the week would come printed out. And again, as you can see, the banana oat protein pancakes, there's only 2 servings here, but we can also, change those to make, if we wanted to make banana protein pancakes for the whole week, we can do it that way as well. So it's a really great program to utilize. And it is just nice to be able to see all of these things. So step 3, nailing your protein targets and help your muscles repair. So focusing on protein intake will dramatically help increase strength and muscle repair during exercise. And it can also play a role in immune function, especially during intense training sessions. So when we look at protein, protein makes up our muscles, tissues, enzymes, and ligaments. We know it's good for recovery and building, but protein also is important to bring oxygen to muscles, hemoglobin, that's its main role. Protein does play a role in metabolism. Again, it does slow down that digestion process. So if we don't want blood sugar spikes, eating protein is good because it does help balance out that carbohydrate. But again, for certain times of the day, that is kind of the goal. But again, before our training sessions, we want high carbs. And then benefits of protein timing. So I want to make sure that you're timing your protein around your training sessions so that you can get the most out of your training session and really try to get that muscle growth if that's your goal. And again, timing around those sessions will help you reach those body composition goals or sports goals faster. And then also our recovery will be quicker as well. One other thing to mention, so if we have suppressed immune systems or if we are injured, we are going to have higher protein needs. So just kind of applying this to your everyday life. If you're feeling sick and you don't have an appetite, it's likely you actually need a lot more protein on days, where you're sick or you're, injured, things like that. So just make sure that, if you're kind of under the weather or you are suffering from some sort of injury, that you are trying to get that protein in, because it's going to be crucial for your recovery and healing process. So athletes do require more protein than the average person, just because their needs are different. They're expending a lot more energy. And a lot of sports, strength is very important. But factors like age, height, lean body mass affect how these numbers are calculated. So again, protein goals will be very different from person to person, and stages of life, training, things like that. But trying to focus on 20 to 30 grams every 3 hours is a good rule of thumb when we're kind of going through our days. I don't want you to reach the end of your day, realize you didn't have any protein, and try to get 80 grams of protein in one meal. It just doesn't work like that. Our bodies also probably would be mad at us for trying to digest 80 grams of protein in one meal. So really trying to spread it out throughout the day is going to be the best way to utilize that protein. Now, you've probably heard of leucine. So leucine is a branched chain amino acid that has a greater power of stimulating protein synthesis than other amino acids. So I wanted to create a list of high leucine content proteins, because these are going to be really beneficial for muscle building. And fun fact, whale meat has the highest leucine content, but I didn't add it in here because I don't know if that's even legal to do, but I thought I would mention it. So I wanted to put a little case study in so you could kind of understand how we calculate protein needs for certain individuals and athletes. But I took a 24-year-old female basketball player. She's 74 kilograms, 5'10", and her goal for her sport is to increase her muscle mass. So overall, we usually use protein ranges between 1.2 to 2.0 grams per kilogram. But as you can see for her, for a strength athlete, I would recommend about 1.6 to 1.8 grams per kilogram. So you can see her protein needs for a day would be anywhere between 119 to 134. Now, if this athlete was a strength athlete, I would probably give her lower protein needs, and she would be between 1.2 to 1.4. But again, just showing that it's really different between every goal and every athlete. Those protein needs will directly change. And then as far as carbohydrate goals go, for the first 4 to 6 hours after a competition or meet, about 1 gram to 1.2 grams per kilogram every hour is going to be the carbohydrate goal, because we really need to replenish those muscle stores and energy stores in our body. So, and then followed by regular dietary habits after the 4 to 6 hours. Now, if you have a hard time hitting your protein goals, then supplementation is a good thing. I always say whole food first and then supplement, but protein can be hard to hit, especially if you have higher goals and you're looking to gain some weight. Make sure you ask your sports dietitian if a product is third-party tested, approved, or not. We just know the supplement industry is not very regulated, so it's very important to make sure your supplements are third-party tested. Enough for the disclaimer. I wanted to go into a couple of different proteins just to kind of break some things down, maybe questions that people have had, but whey protein, casein protein, and I wanted to compare plant protein. So whey protein and casein protein both have the highest bioavailability when we compare it to plant. Now, bioavailability just means that you need more of that nutrient to get the same amount of protein. So when we're taking a look at our whey and casein, we have 100% bioavailability, so you're getting all of that protein. Now, whey is going to be quickly digested, so it's going to have a fast release of amino acids, where casein is slowly digested, so the release of those amino acids throughout your body will take a little bit longer, so you'll have that kind of prolonged. And then when we talk about plant protein, plant proteins lack leucine content, so they have less ability to build that muscle. Now they still do, but the leucine content is lower, and it's also lacking some other important amino acids that we do get in some of our animal proteins, But as you can see, when there was a article done and it compared plant foods versus casein and whey, and it kind of showed a whole graph on how everything was, the protein digestibility, and it showed that pea protein, only 89% of the protein was absorbed. And then, when we're looking at gluten, there's 25% of that protein is being absorbed. So as we get to those plant proteins, you can tell that we're getting a little bit less protein through those sources. Step 4 is fighting inflammation with healthy fats. So I have had athletes finding themselves getting sick after game series or stressful tournaments. And so I thought that this was something that was important to touch on. So fat is a long-term energy source for low-intensity aerobic exercises. So this is going to be something that we maybe don't talk about as much for athletes, but it's still something that plays a very important role and is very good for athletes to incorporate in their diet. So vitamin A it plays a role in stimulating white blood cells, so it's good for immune boosting. And then as well as vitamin A also assists in the function of immune cells. So these are 2 vitamins that are very important, especially if you feel like you're getting sick a lot, might be something to incorporate. And then when we talk about omega-3s, omega-6 fatty acids, those are great for supporting brain health. They're very anti-inflammatory. So if you're getting injured a lot, again, or you feel like you're in the training room all the time, this is something to incorporate into your diet. And then hormones are the outside of hormones are made out of fats. So fats are very important in just making sure our hormones are being transported throughout our body. And then fat also plays a role in regulating our body temperature. And then I know we don't always think about this, but fat also helps protect our organs. So if we were just skin and bones, our organs would be getting bruised all the time. So thank your fat sometimes. And then choosing fats from this list. This is just a quick little list that I put together, but these are some healthy unsaturated fats for the most part. And you will be getting a lot of these healthy, anti-inflammatory properties from a lot of these foods. So really trying to stick to some of these unsaturated fats. I know coconut oil is more saturated, but again, we want to make sure we're getting some of those omega-3s, omega-6s, which are very rich in most of these foods. Now, step 5 is getting enough calories. So I want you to support your regimens and training by getting as much calories as your body needs, but sometimes we don't always realize we're under fueling. So if you are somebody that suffers from frequent injuries, maybe you feel like it's hard to concentrate, you're not recovering as quickly between training sessions, you have issues sleeping, maybe you're getting sick more often, or your period's not regular, or you have low libido. There's a lot of different ways that underfueling can present itself in our bodies, and our bodies are very smart. And so it's very important to, take a look at these things and make sure we're not overlooking something that actually might be a lot more serious. And maybe it's just eating another meal a day. Maybe it's eating 2 more meals a day. You don't know. But again, it's going to differ from every person. And these are ways that our body presents sometimes under fueling. So it's definitely important to pay attention to these and definitely talk to a dietitian, an athletic trainer, or your doctor if you're experiencing any of these or you have been diagnosed with some of these things. And staying hydrated. It really is that simple. So hydration enhances the body's ability to regulate temperature. It helps minimize those muscle cramps, and it really can help our cognitive function. When we're dehydrated, our body is usually, trying to pull water and different nutrients from other parts of our bodies. So just do your body a favor and drink that bottle of water. But it's really important, again, to pay attention to salty cravings, because if you're competing in a hot or humid climate, your body is losing a lot more electrolytes. And so again, our body is smart and likes to tell us what it needs. And so sometimes the salty cravings is our body saying we need some more salt. So just something to keep in the back of your head. And pretzels are a great option to keep on hand for some extra salty snacks. Now, for hydration guidelines, it's really important to monitor, your fluid losses. So if you're somebody that sweats a lot or you're drenched after a workout, then it might be really important for you to actually see how much fluid you're losing every day. So for you, I would like you to weigh in before and after your training sessions. And for every pound loss, I want you to be replenishing with 16 ounces of fluids. It can be electrolytes, it can be water, but just don't rely on thirst as an indicator, because thirst as an indicator means you're already about 1% to 2% dehydrated. So just make sure you're really looking at these things. And if it's something that you're concerned with, then I highly recommend you do some sort of sweat testing, or at least weigh yourself before and after so you can see those losses. And then signs of dehydration. Obviously, we know a lot of times that when our pee is darker, it means we're dehydrated, but it doesn't always mean that. There's a lot of other reasons. But having muscle cramps, headaches, fatigue, dry mouth, these are all signs of dehydration. And if you are somebody that takes a B vitamin, I just want to say that your pee will turn bright yellow if you're on a B vitamin. So don't be alarmed if that ever happens to you. But a couple really great options of high quality fluids with electrolytes are low fat milk, milk substitutes. Gatorade is a great option, 100% broth-based soups and smoothies as well. And then even foods like vegetables, like watermelon is a really high water content fruit, grapes, all of those things provide some of those nutrients, additional water, and electrolytes. And then last but not least, we're going to touch on sleep. So the average student athlete is getting about 6.5 hours of sleep, where the goal is anywhere between 7 to 9 hours. And as you can tell, and as you've probably heard, sleep affects us in so many ways. So inadequate sleep can be associated with a cognitive decline. It can be associated with poor decision making. It's been linked to lower grades, mental health disorders, so many things. So really making sure that we're at least trying to hit a certain amount of sleep every night, or really just prioritizing our rest time, even if it's just sitting in bed or sitting on the couch for a little bit. Any sort of rest is really going to benefit you when we are training so much. If you are somebody who has a hard time keeping on weight, then protein before bed might be perfect for you. So protein ingested prior to sleep is absorbed, close to our sleeping window, which helps increase our protein synthesis overnight. So if you're somebody, again, who wants to gain some weight, casein protein is a great option because it's going to be extended throughout the night. So that slow digestion of protein will really be kind of going on while you're sleeping, and help with even low blood sugars as well. So protein consumption for bed can really help with people who are trying to either maintain or gain weight, and it actually doesn't appear to reduce appetite for breakfast the next day. So if that's something that worries you and you're like, well, I'm not going to be hungry for breakfast, it has not been found to really affect that whatsoever. And then lastly, here are some sleep hygiene tips. So please avoid blue light at night. Try to seek bright light in the morning to kind of help your cortisol to rise and wake you up, but that also keep your melatonin levels low. Your bedroom should be a cool, dark place, preferably less than 68 degrees. You should avoid caffeine at least 6 hours before bedtime. Caffeine has a half-life of 12 hours, so it's still going to be in your system when you go to bed. But really kind of trying to avoid that caffeine in our system when we go to bed is can help with people who are really affected by caffeine. And then trying to avoid excess liquids at night, maintain a regular sleep schedule is also very important. So let's say you normally wake up at 7 o'clock in the mornings. It actually is advised to try to wake up around that same time on the weekends, within 30 minutes, just to really maintain a certain rhythm for your body and a sleep schedule that your body is used to. And then beds should be used for sleep-related activities only. So if you're somebody that likes to do homework or work on things in bed, a lot of times we can subconsciously associate our bed with stress and other things in life, which we don't want to do, and it can affect our sleep. So really trying to keep the bed for sleep-related activities only. And then again, don't obsess over the clock. Just this can lead to anxiety. So let's just try to, keep our eyes off the clock at night and just focus on trying to sleep. If you are interested, I created a PDF list which we actually upgraded into a protocol in our Practice Better app. So if this is something that you're interested in, you want to see my top rated supplements, you can scan the QR code right there. And then just a quick little summary of some of the things that we talked about today. It's important to time our nutrients around our training, really focusing on rest as much as we're focusing on training. And then you probably need to eat more than you are right now. So 3 little tips to kind of take you with, but overall, I hope those 7 tips taught you some things. Now, again, we offer 2 different services, the premium package and the one-on-one coaching package. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me or scan the QR code below. 15-minute complimentary call if you're interested. And then these are my references. Thank you all for joining. I don't know if you have any questions, but I will open the chat for anybody who has questions. But if not, I thank you so much for coming and I hope you learned something. What is my favorite food to stock the fridge with? Well, currently my fridge has just fruit and protein in it. So I would say my favorite things are fresh fruit, and to stock my fridge, I would say meal prepped containers. So food that's ready for me to eat. Someone asked, should collagen be taken just before workouts? If your event, race, competition is super early in the morning and you can't eat 3 hours beforehand, what do you suggest for carbohydrates an hour before? Okay. So I will answer the first question first. I do like people to take collagen before their workouts, but my biggest thing is making sure you're getting that collagen, every day. So if it fits better in your afternoon and that's the only time you remember it, then take it whenever you remember it. So that definitely, if your race competition is super in the morning, you can't eat. So in the morning, let's say you have a race early on, I would still suggest something kind of, within that, if you can wake up at least an hour before whatever the competition is, even doing something like toast with peanut butter and honey, that's usually an easy option. Cereal with some, yogurt on the side, also a great option because it's high in carbs and provides a tiny bit of protein, but also additional carbohydrates from that cereal. Trying to think of some other of my breakfast things that I like. What are your thoughts on pre-workout? So I think pre-workout has its positives and negatives. I think a lot of times a lot of the athletes that I have worked with ended up utilizing pre-workout as their food before their lift or their training session instead of actual carbohydrates. So what I would say about a pre-workout is it's important to pair that with some sort of food source or carbohydrate source. You're getting the energy not just from the caffeine, but also from relying on those carbohydrates. So pre-workout sources with food. Can collagen work as a post-workout recovery protein source? I wouldn't necessarily utilize collagen as a post-workout recovery source just because it doesn't have the full amount of amino acids that we need for that protein building. So like we talked about, leucine is really good for protein building. So if your collagen has some of that in it, then I would say it could be something used to support it, but I would preferably choose some sort of like whole protein, source, such as like an animal protein or like a whey protein. Even plant proteins after are fine as well, just making sure we're getting a wide variety of amino acids for that muscle building. Benefits of creatine, and should non-athletes be using it? Great question. So there have been so many studies done on creatine showing its benefit in muscle growth, but creatine also has a lot of other benefits. I know it's also been shown to help with some cognitive function as well. And I don't think just athletes should be using creatine. I think anybody who has goals or goals to increase muscle mass or even just kind of trying to see gains in the gym, I think creatine is definitely a well evidence-based supplement that has been shown to work very well for people. For plant protein, should we be doing the math from how much protein we actually get versus what the nutritional information says? You know what? That's a good question. So from what I read on the article about the protein digestibility, it seems like that's already like the amount you're getting. I would need to double check that question or that fact for sure. But I think the reason why there's a lower percentage of that digestibility, so let's say that the 11% that's not being digested, I think that's from the fiber and other sources that are in the plant protein that aren't necessarily protein digestible, because what they did in the study was they measured like the fecal, how much protein was in the fecal matter and other ways to assess the protein content and its digestibility. And so I think the reason for some of that not being digested is the fiber in the plant protein. So my best guess is that you would need an additional protein than what the nutrition labels say, but I do need to double check that. Anything else? All right, well, thank you guys so much for joining. I hope you learned something new. Oh, I see another one. Oh, thanks, Karen. All right, well, you guys enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. If you have no more questions, thanks for coming.